Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Rob. You guys, today I'm going to be showing you my least used decks for this year. Of course, we're approaching the end of the year, so I have so many decks on my collection, but I don't use all of them. And these are the top 10 I did not use. Let me show you around. Let's cover them from 10 all the way to number 1. And number 10 is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. You guys, this doesn't mean that I don't like these decks. I like some of them. Some of them I'm not so sure about, but a lot of them I like. And the Slumber Cosmic Tarot is a tarot deck that I like. It just didn't attract me for whatever reason. So this is the front of the box, this is the side of the box, this is the back of the box, and this is a pretty inexpensive tarot deck and you can find it pretty much everywhere. This is how the cards come out, so I call it a drawer box because it just sort of slips in and out. This is the book that comes with it, and the book is pretty neat. It's a hard-covered book, and it is pretty neat, I must say. So it goes right into the major arcana, minor arcana. It is in color, and it is a pretty neat book. So not very informative, but it is a neat and well-done book. And these are the cards, you guys. This is the back of the card. They are very much on the shiny side. They are regular size, and so if you have small hands, then you won't have a problem shuffling this deck. But this is the back and it is reversible. And so you guys, just because I didn't use these decks so much this year, or actually very seldom, it doesn't mean that I don't like them. They just didn't attract me for whatever reason. I chose to pick other decks. And when it comes to shuffling this deck, it's pretty good. So cardstock on this deck is pretty okay. I think it's your regular run-of-the-mill cardstock. It's not too thin, it's not too thick. It is a pretty good cardstock. So when it comes to all of that, this deck is pretty good. If you want to do a spread with this deck, it also works really, really well. And so I'm going to tell you why I was not attracted to this deck. I was not attracted to this deck because of the images. The images seem to be really, really young. They seem to be the sort of image that I don't really take so serious. I didn't feel a lot of the times that this deck was going to give me the answers. And a lot of the times I choose my decks by my mood. And I didn't feel like I found the right mood to be able to use this deck. It just didn't call to me. So a lot of the times, you guys, when I want to do a reading, I will look through my shelf. I will look at the decks that I have, and then I'll say, oh, okay, this one calls me, this one calls me, this one doesn't call me. And so this guy is always there with everybody else. This guy has the same opportunity that everybody else had. And for some reason, I never reached out to it. So, but it is a nice deck. One of the things that I really don't resonate with this deck is that the images are super, super young. And so I don't know. I can't seem to take this deck serious. I can't seem to really relate to the images, but I like it. I still like this deck. And by the way, you guys, this is by Tilly Walden, and it is a mass-produced deck. Sterling Ethos, New York, is the publisher. So, you guys, that is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot, and that is my least used deck for this year at number 10. And now, you guys, let's jump to deck number 9. Deck number 9, the Crow Tarot. And this one is by US Game Systems. And it is not a very expensive tarot deck, you guys. These are the sides. This is the back of the box. You can pause your device and take a read at it. And this is one of those decks that I really didn't reach out to, you guys. And I am not sure why this deck didn't call me. I can only imagine that it has to do with the whole crow theme. I have the Murder of Crows as well, and that one is by Los Scarabeo, and that one is also one of those decks that I just don't use. And so this particular deck comes with this sort of a book. It goes right into the major and minor arcana. It has maybe a couple of spreads in there. These are some of the spreads that it has in there. And it just goes right into the major arcana. Not very useful. It is that sort of rose petal feeling to it. So that's the book. These are the cards, you guys. This is the back of the card, and they are reversible. So that is kind of nice. It looks like it's shiny, but it's really not that shiny. It just the light shining on it. It is sort of a matte cardstock to it. So I just didn't really relate to it. Now, cardstock is pretty good, by the way. It is a rather thin, or on the thinner side, but it's not so bad. It's your regular sort of run-of-the-mill US game systems cardstock. Really okay. The size of it is just a bit larger than a regular card would be, but it's not that big of a deal. If you have a kind of smaller hands like I do, I don't think you're going to have a problem shuffling this deck. As you can see, I don't have any problems shuffling this deck. And so if you want to do a spread with this deck, it spreads just wonderful. Now, when we look at some of these images, and this is the reason why I never really reached out to it, I couldn't really relate to these images. This is strength. And I think it has to do with the whole crow thing, the fact that there's a crow on every card. And of course, this is the Crow Tarot, right? So you may be wondering, Rob, why did you buy this deck if you don't relate to that? Well, I do love looking at different artwork. I collect these things, as many of you know. And so it doesn't matter that I use it or not. And once again, you guys, it doesn't mean that I don't like this deck. It just means I never really used it this last year or this last 10 months. It just didn't call to me. I am not sure why. I think that it's not deep enough for me. And it just didn't call to me. I rather use other decks. So do I think the artwork is nice on this deck? Yeah, I think the artwork is nice. This one, by the way, it's created by MJ Cullinan, and I just didn't use it. I just did not use it at all. And so this is the Page of Cups, and I'm showing you some of the cards so you can see what this artwork looks like. Printing is pretty good on this deck. Colors are also okay on this deck. They're not my favorite, but it is a nice deck, you guys. I just didn't use it. It is a nice deck. So, you guys, that is deck number 9, Crow Tarot. And with that being said, let's move on to deck number 8. And you guys, make sure that you stay all the way through the end, because number 1 is a really interesting deck. And I wonder if many of you have the same feelings or have the same experience that I have had with this particular deck. And so, you guys, let's move on. This is deck number 8, the Rook Tarot. And this is just, again, one of those decks that I like, and I'm happy that it's in my collection, but I just didn't use it, you guys. This is by Los Scarabeo. This is the box. This is the back of the box. This is the front of the box. It opens sort of like in a two-way, but it's just the top. It is hard covered. This is the book that it comes with, and if a lot of you know Los Scarabeo, or if you don't know Los Scarabeo, they come in different languages. So it looks like it's a bit thick, but at the end of the day, these are very thin, because if you're reading in English or if you're reading in one of the other languages, then it's just only a small section of the book will be for you. So nevertheless, it's a nice book. It jumps into the major or minor arcana, and that's pretty much what that book is all about. Now, these are the cards, you guys. They are not gilded. When it comes to size, they are almost the same as a regular, as you can see. A bit smaller. So for those of you with smaller hands, this might be a good deck. Now, cardstock. Cardstock is good on this. If you're familiar with Los Scarabeo, you're going to fast recognize this cardstock. Many of the Los Scarabeo decks come with this cardstock. It is on the shiny side. You can see a lot of the fingerprints here. This is the back of the card, and they are reversible. So for those of you that read in reverse, that is really a good thing. When it comes to, it is sort of thicker cardstock, so it just, I can handle it. I don't have a problem, but it is sort of at the limit. So when it comes to shuffling this deck, it is not a problem. It shuffles really well. If you want to do a spread with it, also it spreads really nicely. And so let's pick some of the cards and let me show you around. And this deck is just again, one of those decks that I just never picked up in the last year. And these are beautiful images. It just, for some reason, doesn't call out to me. When I look at my shelf and I think, okay, which deck am I going to use? This deck does not jump at me. And it's not that I don't like it. It's not that I don't want this deck to be in my collection. Once again, I like this deck. I just didn't use it. For some reason, I just didn't use it. I think the images can be a little bit too aggressive maybe for me. I just don't relate to the images in this deck, you guys. This is the 4 of coins. Then here you have the 8 of cups, and of course there's symbolism there. So if you want to know what those symbols are, we must look into the book and read about that. I haven't really used this deck that much to know exactly what those symbols mean, but this is the King of Wands, and as you can see, it just looks a little bit too hero-like, a little action hero-like, and I just don't really relate to it. But it is a nice deck, and I am happy that it's in my collection. I just didn't use it. I just haven't been able to relate to this deck, at least in the last 12 months. And you know, maybe I will relate to this deck soon, but at the moment I don't, and for the last 12 months I haven't. They're not gilded, by the way. And that's the Rook Tarot, and now we're going to jump to deck number 7. Deck number 7, the Edenberg Tarot by Steve Edenberg. And this deck is by US Game Systems. It is a really nice deck. I already did a review of this deck. It's on the channel, so if you want to look at it, you can. But this is a deck that when I first got it, I was really excited to get it, and I used it 1 or 2 times, and then I put it on the shelf, and that's pretty much where it stayed for the last year. And I'm not sure why, once again, because it has nice pictures, but I just didn't really reach out to it. So it comes in a box that tears into 2. This is the book that it comes with. It is that rose petal feeling. It gives you a couple of spreads. It goes into the major or minor arcana, and that's pretty much all that there is to this book. And so these are the cards, you guys. They're not gilded. They are pretty much a regular size. Yes, as you can see, they're a tad smaller than the Rider-Waite, but cardstock. This is a mass-produced deck, of course. It's not going to cost you that much money, but it is run-of-the-mill paper. It's really not that big of a deal when it comes to this paper. It is sort of in between matte and shiny, so this doesn't feel lush or anything on the hands, and maybe that is one of the reasons why I never really picked this deck up so much. But you know, when it comes to shuffling, you can shuffle this deck pretty easy. It is one of those standard sort of normal decks, if you can call them that, when it comes to cardstock and when it comes to size. If you want to do a spread with this deck, and by the way, you guys, this is the back of the card, and they are reversible, as you can see. And so this is what some of these cards look like. This is the King of Cups, and it is a nice deck. I like the drawings of it. I think that Steve did a really nice job with it. Maybe the fact that it's mass-produced is what doesn't attract me to it. I feel that this deck should be maybe in an indie deck. I feel like this deck maybe should have better cardstock quality. There's something that is just not attracting me to this deck, and I like the drawings very much, and I just think that it has to do with the paper. So once again, I got this deck, I used it 1 or 2 times, and then I just put it on the shelf. Am I glad that this deck is on my collection? Yes, I'm glad that this deck is on my collection. I like it. I like the pictures of it. I like the printing on it. I like the colors. It just didn't call out to me. So maybe it's going to call out soon. I'll put it sort of in the front of the shelf and see if it starts calling me out a bit more. But this is the Edenberg Tarot, and this is a deck number 7 that I least used in the last 12 months. So you guys, let's continue to deck number 6. Deck number 6, the Star Spinner Tarot. You guys, this is one of those decks that I don't particularly like so much. If this deck was not in my collection, I would be totally fine with it. So that kind of tells you why I did not connect with this deck. But anyway, this is the front of the box. This is the back of the box, and you can pause your device and take a look at that And so the box opens up like this. And it is a very nice presentation, by the way. The book is sort of on the thick side, so it goes into the right. It goes into the major and minor arcana. It gives you a couple of spreads, and that is really the book in a shelf. Now, let me show you what these cards look like. By the way, the box closes here with magnets. So, and this is what the inside of the box looks like. And you guys, these are the cards. I am not so crazy about these cards at all. This is the back of the card. They are reversible. They have that sort of pinkish color to it. And I don't relate to these drawings at all. But before we get into that, cardstock is super thin. The cardstock on this deck is really not desirable, at least not for me. So, and that could be the reason why I haven't used this deck on a regular basis, or less than a regular basis. I never pick this up. This is, if you want to compare it to a regular card size, they're almost the same size. And so they're not gilded. As you can see, when it comes to shuffling, it doesn't shuffle really well. These cards are very light. And so when it comes to shuffling, I find it difficult to shuffle. So that's already a minus there for me. When it comes to a spread, it also doesn't do a very nice spread. So already one of the reasons why this deck doesn't even call out to me. And to top it all off, these drawings, I just cannot for my life relate to these drawings. So this one is the Four of Chalices, which is cups. This one is the Three of Chalices, which is the Three of Cups. This is the Empress. I'm not into these pictures at all, or I'm not into these drawings at all, you guys. This is Temperance. And I cannot explain to you why, but I just don't understand them. I don't get into them. The colors are not my preferred colors or the colors that I like to look at. And so it's just, the whole recipe is there for this deck not to be one of my favorite decks, or not for me not to use this deck at all. It is an inclusive deck, so that is a positive thing about it. As you can see, this is one of the Lovers cards. I think they come with a couple of others. They have some extra cards in this deck. This is the World, and that's how this deck looks like, you guys. Not my favorite deck at all. And so, am I glad that this deck is in my collection? I don't think so. Am I upset that it is in my collection? No, I'm not upset. But if it wasn't, I would be totally fine with that as well. So you guys, with that being said, let's jump to deck number 5. Deck number 5, Crystal Tarot by Elisabetta Trevisan, and it is by Los Scarabeo. This is a nice deck. I like this deck. It comes in a talk box, so it's one of those Los Scarabeo talk boxes, if you are familiar with them. This is the back of the box, so you can pause your device and take a look at that if you like. It really just has the 22 major arcana and 56 minor arcana with divinatory instructions. And this is a Los Scarabeo, so it comes with a small booklet like usually Los Scarabeo comes with, or usually how the Los Scarabeo decks come with, and it comes in different languages, as you probably know. That's how Los Scarabeo does it. So it's very run-of-the-mill, minor arcana, major arcana, and that's really the end of it, you guys. It has a spread here, nothing to really talk about. And these are the cards. They're not gilded. So this is the back of the card, and they are reversible. So once again, you guys, I like this deck. I just, for some reason, never really use it. And the cardstock on this deck is very run-of-the-mill. There's nothing special about it. If you want to know what the size of these cards is, you can see here that they are a bit smaller than your regular size. And when it comes to shuffling, it shuffles okay. I find this paper stock or this card stock to be a bit too thin. So it doesn't have enough body to be able to give each card its own flying technique. So they don't really fly easily. They kind of get stuck. So that's one of the problems. If you do a spread with this, the spread works really well. And if we look at some of these drawings, you will see that the drawings are really nice. This is La Temperanza or Temperance, and it's a really nice deck. However, I don't think that printing quality is good on this deck. So maybe that's one of the other reasons. And you guys, this is what sort of happens when you have a lot of decks, that you have so many to pick from that you just sort of get your favorite ones. And then a lot of the other ones just get pushed to the side, whether it's because they don't have the right paper stock, or they don't have the right size, or maybe they're not, the images are not images that you can relate to. Maybe the printing is not that good. So for me, I have the blessing to be able to pick from a lot of decks, right? So I can really pick those decks that I say, okay, this deck has the perfect card stock. This deck has the perfect colors. This deck has the perfect drawings, the perfect shine to it. And so for me, it's just that sort of a thing. So am I glad that this deck is on my collection? Yeah, I'm glad. I think that the drawings are really nice, and I'm showing you some of these cards as I speak. And but this is the La Papessa, or the High Priestess. This is also a peep deck, so maybe one of the reasons why I don't use it that much. The 10 of Cups. This is the 8 of Coins. So as you can see, those are peeps. You guys, this is one of those decks that I just never pick out of the bookshelf. I have it on my collection. I'm glad that it's on my collection. But if for some reason it wasn't, don't tell anybody, it would be okay. So you guys, that is the Crystal Tarot. And now we are going to jump to deck number 4. If the Dungeons and Dragons Tarot deck. This deck is one of those decks that looked really beautiful to me when I first saw it, and I thought, this is a deck that I really must get. And I've seen it so much online, and I've seen various reviews of it, and I thought, what a beautiful deck, right? I should definitely give it a try. And so I went to one of my bookstores and I saw it in there. Now, it is rather a larger size box. This is the back of the box, and you can take a you can stop your device and read that if you like. Peer into the vast cosmos of the multiverse with this official Dungeons and Dragons Tarot deck. So let's open this, you guys. This is the book that it comes with. By the way, the presentation is really nice on this deck. It is a hardcover box. That is the side of the box. That is the top, and that is the bottom. And that's the back of the box, I guess, or the back side of the box. This is the book that it comes with, and it is rather a thin book, but it goes right into the major and minor arcana, and it gives you a picture of the cards, which I always like, and then it just gives you the meanings here. So, and a little bit of a description of the card. Other than that, that's really all there is to it. There is a little bit of a description of what this deck is all about, and that's pretty much the book in a nutshell. So if we open the box, the cards come out like this. And these are the cards. They are pretty much your normal size card, just maybe a little bit smaller and thinner. They are not gilded, as you can see. The cardstock quality is that linen, right? And it looks like that canvas sort of linen, which I've learned to like this cardstock. I'm not crazy about it, but I've learned to like it. And so one of the things that I really like about this cardstock is that it actually looks like these are paintings because of the surface of the card. And so that makes it really, really nice. And so am I glad that this deck is on my collection, you guys? Yes, I'm glad that it is. It is a nice deck. I like the pictures in it. I'm not attracted to it, or at least I haven't been attracted to it in the last 8-12 months. And so maybe I'll put it out. Maybe I will try to work with it. But so far, it's just one of those decks that I have not taken out on a regular basis. Now, these cards are not gilded. When it comes to shuffling, is okay. They are a little bit on the thicker side. But when it comes to shuffling, they shuffle pretty good. So no complaints there. If you have the Phantom Wise Tarot, this is that same linen stock, by the way, of the Phantom Wise. Maybe some of you have it. If you do a spread, it works okay, the spread. It doesn't work perfect, but let's take a look at some of these images so you can see what this deck looks like. This is the Four of Intelligence, by the way. And so this is the Four of Swords. This is the King of Charisma. And maybe that's another reason why I haven't been taking this deck out, or why I haven't taken this deck out at all, is because the names are a bit different. This is the King of Strength. So it works a little bit different than the RWS, but pretty much is the same thing. I look at videos of tarot decks, I hear a lot of, oh, this is RWS based, or it's not RWS based, or this or that. And I'm not really sure what they mean by that, because I think that there is the RWS, and I think that a lot of the decks are based on the RWS. I would say that 99.9, even though the cards may have different names to them, even though the drawings are completely different than a Pamela Coleman Smith, they are, at the end of the day, all sort of the same, really. Unless you're looking at the Thoth Tarot, then I can tell you, yes, this one is a bit different. But even that one sort of compares to the RWS. So anyway, that's just my thought on that one. This is the Hermit. You see, these are nice drawings. I just never use it. This is the Nine of Wisdom. I just feel like it's a little bit... the Devil. I just feel like the images are not really my thing. So I think that that's one of the reasons why this deck has not left the bookshelf so often this year. But you guys, that is the Dungeons and Dragons. Very nice deck. I'm glad that this deck is on my collection. I'm going to try to use this deck a little bit more. I'm going to try to, like the other one, I'm going to try to put all of these decks on front of the shelf so that I can start using them a bit more. So you guys, with that being said, let's go on to deck number 3. Deck number 3, the Wild Unknown Tarot Deck and Guidebook, written and illustrated by Kim Kranz. And you guys, this deck, not only do I not use it, but I don't really enjoy this deck too much. I feel like I paid a lot of money for this particular version. I think that they have another version of it. I got the larger sort of version of it, and I did a whole review on this deck, by the way, so you can take a look at that. It opens up like this. It has a sleeve, and when you get rid of the sleeve, it opens like this, and it says, "May you always be on the inner guest." So the book is a very nice book. So presentation on this deck is really nice. I just had a problem with the cards, and so we'll get into all of that in a minute. But the book is very nice. It's a thick book. I think that they wasted a lot of space, as you can see here. The cards are black and white. I think that they should have been in color. And so I have a lot of really not so many positive things to say about this deck, or I have a lot of negative things to say about this deck. More negative than positive. So, and I know that this is a beloved deck, and every time I say something like this, or every time I come out and I really speak the truth about how I feel about a deck, then I get so many comments that some of the viewers just don't like. But I'm honest with my reviews. I'm not getting paid to do any of these reviews at the moment, so I can tell you exactly what my thoughts are. So these are it gives you a couple of spreads. It goes right into the cards and the meanings, and I can say that this one is RWS inspired, but it's all about animals and things like this. So I don't know. See, this is the back of the box, and you can pause your device and read that if you like, if you're not familiar with this deck. And let me show you what these cards look like. So this is the inside of the box, and inside of this box you get another talk box, and this talk box also cost money. So you guys, I feel like they spent a lot of money on this deck that was really unnecessary, and I think that they could have. I like the idea, I like the pictures, I like the deck and the whole meaning of it and the feeling that it sort of gives me, but I just feel like they really spent a lot of money on presentation when they could have really done a very nice deck. Because they did this hard box, they did this thick book, they did this box that was inside, and this is a hardcover box, and all of these things cost money, right? So at the end of the day, you really wonder, why did you do all of this and then leave the cards out to be on this really mediocre card stock? This is the main reason why I don't pick up this deck. It just doesn't, I can't. This cardstock is very thin, it's very flimsy. The printing on the cards is also not quality, and I don't know why they thought, okay, let me do such a beautiful, let me spend so much money on a presentation and leave the most important part of the deck behind and not pay so much attention to that, which is the cards. I just shuffled that deck and it just doesn't even shuffle that good, you guys, because the cardstock is so thin. Now, they're not gilded. They are sort of like on the shiny, sort of matte side of the spectrum. If you compare it with a regular card, they are just about the same. They're a bit thinner than your regular one. And if you do a spread with this deck, it doesn't work that well. Let me show you what some of these cards look like. This is the moon, of course. The book, by the way, is very nicely written. Let me sort of stop at one of these pages so you can pause your device and read that if you like. It is very nice. There's things that are very nice about this deck, and there's just other things that I just can't stand. The fact that the cards could have been so much better and they chose not to do that is something that really makes me wonder about this deck. But that Kim Krantz is such a talented artist, not only from the drawings but the writing on the book. It's beautiful. I just don't understand the quality of these cards, really. Even the edges of the cards are sort of like a little bit up. I think when they cut them, this is so inexpensive, this cardstock, that it just deforms itself, and I'm not attracted to that at all. This is the Ace of Wands. You know, with some of the other decks that I showed you, I said, well, I don't know why haven't picked it up, or I don't know why I'm not relating. I can tell you exactly why I don't pick this deck up, and that's because of the cardstock. So this is the Five of Coins. This is the Son of Pentacles. So I'm assuming that's the page. I don't really work with this deck at all, you guys. I never pick it up. Now, Rob, are you happy that this deck is in your collection? Not really. I mean, if I didn't have it in my collection, I would be totally fine with it. Or maybe I should have bought the more inexpensive one. This is the Death card. I do like some of the images on this deck. In fact, if you look in my channel, I've chosen one of her images to be on the page of my channel. So I do like it. There's some things that I do like about it, but I never pick it up, and I don't see myself even picking it up in the near future. So you guys, with that being said, let's move on to deck number 2. Deck number 2, the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann. And this is a deck that I never pick up. But by the way, I just did a review of this deck and it's on the channel, so you can go back and take a look at that if you wish. And this is a deck that I never pick up. So I saw it online a lot. I saw that it was very beloved by so many tarot reviewers online, and I thought, you know what, I need to get this deck because it just looks so beautiful and so many people like it. By the way, you guys, I don't do that anymore, so now I'm not doing that anymore. I've been enchanted by many of the reviews that I've seen online, and there's, oh, they love the deck, so I need to get it myself. Done with that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to get decks that really attract me. I'm going to get decks. And of course, those decks do attract me, but sometimes I get into that whole hype thing and I fall into that and I buy the deck. And so I understand there's a lot of people that are being paid to do those videos. So maybe that's why they're like, oh, I love it so much. But I have fallen into that trap many times, and I'm not doing that anymore. This is the booklet that this particular deck comes with, and it is pretty thick. It is a nice booklet, I have to say, and the writing on it is pretty good. It does give you the major and minor arcana. It gives you a couple of spreads, and that's pretty much the book there. Now, these cards, you guys, this is the back of the card. They are reversible. This is very cardboard-like. This cardstock is super cardboard-like. And so that is one of the things that I don't really like, but I don't mind it either, to be honest. It's not gilded. It is sort of on the thicker side because the cardstock is thicker. If you shuffle this deck, it shuffles okay. And if you want to do a spread, it spreads very well. So you guys, do you want to know how big these cards are? Here it is. They are almost exactly the same as a regular Rider-Smith weight. And let me show you what some of these cards look like. I'm sure you know what they look like. I'm sure you've seen these cards a million times. At least I have it. And if you haven't, well, you'll get to see some of them. But like I said, there's a full review of this deck on the channel. So if you want to look at every single card, then go in there. This is the Knight of Wands. I just don't relate to these images at all, you guys. I don't relate to them. I feel like I'm at Burning Man or something like that. And even though I've never been to the Burning Man, I feel like this is the sort of same thing. And this is the sun. I don't really like the colors. I don't like the printing of this deck. This is the Five of Wands. I just feel like it's just not my thing. So am I glad that this deck is on my collection? Not really. If this deck was not in my collection, I wouldn't care. So it is one of those decks that I don't necessarily like. It is sort of like on my dislike deck list. But, you know, in these sort of images, I just don't relate to them. This is the Seven of Pentacles. I'm not into them. This is the Eight of Swords. Don't relate to them at all. The Magician. So you guys, this is the Light Seers, and not my sort of deck. So I never pick it up. So that's why I made it almost to number one, because it is number two. It's not on the expensive side. So I don't feel like I regret so much that I bought it because it was not so expensive, but it does take space, and I don't really need to have this deck on my collection, but it is on my collection. And so let's move on finally to deck number one. Deck number one, True Black Tarot. And you guys, this is one of my biggest disappointments in life. Also one of my biggest regrets, because I spent so much money on this deck. This is an expensive deck. And so I was so excited when I saw it online. I was so excited to get it, and then boom. So I know that you can get a sample card for their card, so to see if you're going to be able to resonate with the paper stock and all of that, which I shouldn't call it paper stock because it's not paper stock. This is actually plastic. But I didn't do that. I just went ahead and ordered the deck. So I saw a couple of reviews online. They loved it. There's so much hype online. And by the way, you guys, I also did a review of this deck, a full review of this deck on the channel. So if you want to see that, go right ahead. But this deck costed me a lot of money, and I got it and I thought, oh my God, what did I do? So this is the box. That's the presentation. It is all in black. Of course, that's why it's called the True Black. But anyway, that's what the box looks like. This is the book that it comes with. And so it really just jumps into the major and minor arcana. It doesn't really give you any more information. So and I believe that these images are AI generated, and I've gotten a lot of slack for saying that, but I don't mind AI generated. I mean, really, I've gotten some comments where people are like, how can you like AI? Some of them I like, some of them I don't like. Of course, I do love it when I get a tarot deck that is completely hand painted by an artist and a creator. I am the first one that will support creators, you guys. So please don't get me wrong. I love hand paintings. I'm an art lover. And so whenever I see a tarot deck that looks just like a painting, I will go ahead and get it. I love them. But this is AI generated, and AI generated can be a little bit cold. And this one, it doesn't fall short from that. This is super cold. I don't relate to the images. This is one of the times when I say, yeah, AI, not so nice. It is gilded in a black, as you can see. These are what the cards look like. And let's start with this material here, because this is not paper stock. This is plastic. So if you want to use this deck around water or liquids, then this is probably your best deck to get, of course, if you resonate with the pictures. I don't resonate with these pictures at all. And so cardstock, not my favorite. I don't do plastic. So, but I did read that it was plastic. I just didn't think that it was going to be such a problem, but it turned out to be a big, big problem. So could I have avoided this? I mean, spending so much money on this deck. I could have, I guess, but I thought that I really wanted it, and I thought that it was going to be a great addition to my collection, and it turned out to be not that. So these are what the images look like. By the way, the back of the card, it is reversible, so you can just use it as reversed if you like. And these are what some of these images look like, you guys. Let me show you what happens when you try to shuffle this deck. It is too thick, so you will not be able to hold it like this. You're gonna have to ripple shuffle it. I don't ripple shuffle, so that is not an option for me, but I do this sort of shuffling, as you can see, but I can't do that with this deck. It's just too thick. This cardstock or this material is too thick. Also, they are not straight. They sort of like bend. As you can see, they're bent, and I don't like when cards do that. So if you want to do a spread with this deck, it does okay. It's not the best one. It's not the best one to do a spread with. So let me show you what these images look like. This is strength. And they are, of course, all black. And like I said, AI generated. I have 2 of these cards. I don't know why I got 2 strength cards, but I wonder if that's standard or not, but I didn't read that anywhere. If anyone has this deck and got 2 strength cards, let me know. Or was that just like total coincidence? This one is the King of Swords. I don't like these images, you guys. They look like alien to me. They look cold. I don't relate to them. I cannot tell you that this is the 4 of Wands. I can't tell you that they resonate with me. A lot of the times I look at these images and I get confused. I learned tarot through the RWS, and this is nothing like it. But at the end of the day, it is RWS, but the images are completely different than the RWS. So this one would be the 10 of coins. And I don't know what an elephant has to do with the 10 of coins, but because we are familiar with the 10 of coins, right? And we know what that image normally looks like. This looks nothing like it. So this is the 7 of coins. This is the Ace of coins. This is the 8 of coins. So on and so forth, you guys. That's how the Black Tarot goes. It is my #1 least used deck. Am I happy that this deck is on my collection? Absolutely not. Would I have spent the money for this deck? Absolutely not. Is it okay if it wasn't in my collection? Absolutely, it would be. So you guys, with that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about these decks. Do you have any of them? Are these decks that you want to get? Let me know what your comments are, you guys. I'd love to hear from you. And as I always say, until the next time.